on Local 10, we are seeing dramatic new video of the moments when a man went to his ex-girlfriend's workplace and began shooting. Police say that he went there to confront her about their relationship and then shot her.
She's standing in her own salon, her business, the place she built with her own hands. And this man, a man she already walked away from, pulls a gun out of his pocket and points it straight at her head. Then he lowers it and pulls the trigger. This happened in broad daylight in Miami, and every second of it was caught on camera. Now, before we get into what happened that day, I need you to understand how we got here. Because this didn't come out of nowhere, not even close. Welcome to Crime and Humanity. Every crime is a human act, shaped by choice, circumstance, and consequence. Crime and humanity are deeply intertwined, and here we explore real cases by looking beyond the act itself, focusing on the people involved and the lives forever changed. We don't just examine crime. Subscribe and turn on notifications as we examine what it reveals about being human. Nayrelia Ramos was a young woman making something of herself in Miami. She owned a beauty salon called Nana the Stylist, tucked inside a spot called My Sweet Beauty Square off Northwest 7th Street and 37th Avenue. If you know Miami, you know that area. And if you know anything about running your own business, especially in the beauty industry, you know it takes serious work. Nayrelia had that kind of drive. She was building. She had clients. She had a space that was hers. At some point, she was in a relationship with a man named Jocelyn, 23 years old. And look, I am not about to sit here and pretend I know every detail of what their relationship looked like day to day. But what I do know, based on what Nayrelia herself said, is that this man had a problem with boundaries. A real problem. She described him as being very on me, like constantly, the kind of attention that stops being flattering real quick and starts feeling like a weight on your chest. She said he was stalking her. And I want to be clear about something. When a woman uses that word, when she says a man is stalking her, that is not a word people throw around lightly. That means she felt watched. She felt followed. She felt like no matter what she did, he was there. And at some point, Nayrelia made a decision. She was done. She cut it off. She stopped answering his texts. She stopped picking up his calls. She did what so many people say women in these situations should do. She walked away. She removed herself. But here is the thing that people don't talk about enough. Walking away only works when the other person lets you walk. And Jocelyn? He was not letting her walk. So Nayrelia moves on with her life. She's working. She's running her business. And eventually, like any person who has moved past a relationship, she starts seeing someone new, a new boyfriend, a new chapter. And that is what set it off. When Jocelyn found out she had a new boyfriend, something shifted. The calls got worse. The texts got more frequent. Nayrelia said the new relationship flat out angered him. And ain't gonna lie, this is the part of the story that is so frustrating to talk about. Because think about it. She left. She moved on. She was minding her business, literally and figuratively. And this man could not handle the fact that she no longer belonged to him. Let me tell you something. That mindset right there is dangerous. When a person cannot accept that a relationship is over, when they see their ex with someone new and their reaction is rage, that is not love. That is possession. And possession has a body count. Now the calls and texts, those were already a problem, but Nayrelia could ignore those. She could silence her phone. She could block a number. What she could not ignore was when he started showing up. He showed up to her place of work. Let that sit for a second. This man knew where she worked. He knew exactly where her salon was. And instead of respecting the fact that she clearly did not want to talk to him, he drove himself to My Sweet Beauty Square and walked in. Nayrelia said the moment she saw him, fear hit her immediately. She was not confused about why he was there. She was not wondering if maybe he just wanted to talk. No, she was scared. Her exact words were, "Oh, I got scared when I saw him." And honestly, she had every reason to be. She started telling him to leave, over and over. Get out. Get out. Get out. She was not engaging in a conversation. She was not entertaining whatever he came there to say. She wanted him gone. And when he would not leave, she did something that, to me, shows just how desperate. She was in that moment. She grabbed her phone. She dialed 911 and she held the screen up to his face. She showed him like, look, I am calling the police right now. You need to leave. Now think about that move. Think about what that says. This woman was so afraid of what this man might do that she tried to use the threat of law enforcement as a shield. She was hoping, praying, that seeing those numbers on her screen would be enough to make him turn around and walk out. But it was not enough. It was nowhere near enough. And what happened next is the reason we are all here today. What happened next is the reason this story is on this channel. And what happened next was captured, every single second of it, on surveillance camera. So here we are, inside my sweet beauty square, a regular day in Miami, clients coming in and out, business owners doing what they do. And Nayrelia Ramos is standing in her salon with a man she already told to leave. A man she already called the police on. A man who should not be there. The surveillance camera is rolling, and what it captures next is something no one in that building was prepared for. On the footage, you can see the two of them. They appear to be arguing. Nayrelia is trying to get him out. She has already shown him her phone with 911 dialed on the screen. She has already told him multiple times to get out, and he is still standing there. Then, Jocelyn reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out a gun. Now I need you to pause with me here, because what happens in the next few seconds is the difference between a news story and a funeral. He points the gun at her head, directly at her head. This man looked at the woman he used to be in a relationship with, the woman who left him, the woman who was just trying to live her life, and he aimed a firearm at her skull. Then, and nobody knows exactly why, he lowers the weapon, he brings it down, and he fires. The bullet hits Nayrelia in the leg. On the surveillance footage, you can see her stumble. She is bleeding. She is trying to get back to her suite. This woman just got shot inside her own place of business, and she is dragging herself back to the one space that was supposed to be safe. And Jocelyn? He takes off. He runs. The sound of that gunshot echoed through the entire building. Business owners in the neighboring suites, their clients, people who were just there to get their hair done or their nails done, they all heard it, and they ran. People were scrambling for cover, ducking behind chairs, trying to figure out what just happened. One of the people nearby described it simply. They said, it happened super quick. And that is the terrifying part, because violence like this does not announce itself with a countdown. There is no warning bell. One moment you are having a normal day, and the next moment someone is bleeding on the floor and everyone is running. Nayrelia made it back to her suite. She was alive. She was injured, but she was breathing. And honestly, the fact that she is still here to tell the story is something I do not take lightly. Because when a man points a gun at your head, when he is standing that close and he has already made the decision to pull the trigger, survival is not guaranteed. It is not even likely. But she survived. Damn. Now here is where things moved fast. And I mean fast. Miami police responded to the scene. They had the surveillance footage. They had Nayrelia's account of what happened. They had the 911 call she made while Jocelyn was still standing in her salon. And they had a name. She knew exactly who shot her. This was not some random act of violence from a stranger. This was a man she had been in a relationship with. A man she had been trying to get away from. A man whose face was clear as day on camera. There was no mystery here. There was no question about who did this. The footage showed everything. The argument, the gun coming out of his pocket, the shot, him running. It was all right there. And let me say, this. Surveillance footage in cases like this is everything. Because without it, this becomes a he said, she said situation. Without it, there is room for doubt. But that camera did not lie. It captured every single second of what Jocelyn did to Nayrelia Ramos. From the moment he pulled that weapon to the moment he fled, it was all documented. Miami police identified Jocelyn quickly, and I want to point something out here. Nayrelia had been dealing with this man's behavior for a while. The stalking, the constant calls, the texts she kept ignoring. This was not the first time he had crossed a line. This was just the first time he crossed it with a bullet. And that is something that needs to sit with all of us. Because how many times did this situation almost become something worse before it actually became something worse? How many ignored texts were warnings? How many unanswered calls were countdowns? This man was escalating for a while. And the day he showed up to her job, with a gun in his pocket, he had already made his decision before he walked through that door. Police moved on this quickly. They had the evidence, they had the victim's statement, they had the footage, and honestly, Jocelyn did not exactly make himself hard to find. This was not some calculated crime where the suspect had a disappearing plan. This was a man driven by rage who shot a woman and ran. And that running? It did not last long. Jocelyn was located and arrested. He was taken into custody by Miami police and booked on multiple charges, the most serious being attempted murder. And let me be clear about that charge. Attempted murder. Not assault. Not aggravated battery. Attempted murder. Because when you point a gun at someone's head, lower it, and then fire into their body, the law does not see that as an accident. The law does not see that as a moment of passion. The law sees that as a man who tried to kill someone. And that is exactly what the evidence showed. While Jocelyn sat in a cell, Nayrelia sat in recovery. A woman who did nothing wrong. A woman who ended a relationship she did not want to be in anymore. A woman who tried to ignore the harassment. A woman who called the police when he showed up. A woman who literally held her phone in his face, begging him to leave. And her reward for all of that was a bullet in her leg and a story she will carry for the rest of her life. Moving on. How this played out in court. What Jocelyn is facing and what Nayrelia had to say about the man who nearly took her life. That is all coming in the final part.
And the victim says she's been trying to get away from the suspect for years. She's ignored his text messages, she's ignored his phone calls, but he still shows up to her place of work. It's what happened next, she said, she never expected. Terrifying screams captured on surveillance camera moments after a woman is shot. Watch as the gunman and victim first appear to be arguing when he pulls out a gun from his pocket, points it at her head, then aims down and pulls the trigger. The woman shot in the leg and bleeding as she's seen stumbling back to her suite. The shooter taking off, but the gunfire prompting neighboring business owners and their clients to run for cover.
It happened super quick, so I was just trying to get him out.
The woman in the video, Nayrelia Ramos, who owns Nana the Stylist, a Miami beauty salon inside the My Sweet Beauty Square off Northwest 7th Street and 37th Avenue. The man who shot her, Miami police say, is 23-year-old Jocelyn, Ramos' ex-boyfriend.
He was just like very on me and like stalking me kind of, and then he found out I had a new boyfriend.
The new relationship, Ramos said, infuriated Jocelyn, who began repeatedly calling and texting her. But it's when he showed up to her business, she worried what he would do next.
I got scared when I saw him. I was just trying to get him out. As soon as I saw him, I just kept telling him to get out, get out, get out. I grabbed my phone and I dialed 911 and I showed him because he wouldn't leave. And that's when he pulled out the gun and shot me.
While Ramos continues to recover from her injury, her hope is that the man who nearly took her life will remain behind bars with no chance of bonding out.
I really hope he doesn't. That's all I can say.
Jocelyn was booked into jail on multiple charges, the heaviest one, attempted murder. And when it came time to talk about bond, the court made a decision that, honestly, was the only decision that made sense. No bond, none. This man was not walking out of that building. He was staying right where he was. And for Nayrelia, that mattered. Because when she was asked about it, she did not hesitate. She knows that if this man gets out, her safety is not something anyone can promise her. She already tried everything. She ignored him. She blocked him. She told him to leave. She called the police right in front of his face. And he still shot her. So yeah, Her hope that he stays locked up, that is not dramatic, that is survival. As of now, Jocelyn remains behind bars. He is being held without bond, facing those attempted murder charges, along with others connected to what he did that day. And while the legal process continues to move forward, the evidence against him is not something a defense attorney can wave away. The surveillance footage alone tells the whole story. There is no angle. There is no alternative version of events. The camera caught it all. Now let me take a step back here and talk to you for a second. Not about the case, about the pattern, because if you have watched this channel before, you already know this story. Maybe not this exact one, but you know it. A woman leaves a relationship. The man does not accept it. He harasses her. He stalks her. He shows up where she is not expecting him. And then things turn violent. We have seen this play out over and over and over again. Different names, different cities, same pattern. And the part that frustrates me the most, the part that I need everyone watching this to sit with, is that Nayrelia did everything people say you are supposed to do. She ended the relationship. She cut off communication. She did not engage. She focused on her life and her business. And when he showed up uninvited, she immediately called for help. She dialed 911 and showed him the screen. She did not try to fight him. She did not try to reason with him. She went straight to the authorities. And she still got shot. So what does that tell us? It tells us that doing the right thing does not always protect you from someone who has already decided to do the wrong thing. It tells us that a phone call to 911 is not a bulletproof vest. And it tells us that when someone shows you who they are through their actions, through the stalking, through the obsessive calls, through the refusal to let go, you need to take that seriously. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now. Nayrelia Ramos is alive today. She is recovering. And she is still the owner of Nana the Stylist in Miami. That business is still hers. That life is still hers. And no man, not Job Jocelyn, not anyone, was able to take that from her. She is still here. And that in a story like this is the one thing worth holding on to. But hey, not everyone in these situations gets to tell their own story. Not everyone makes it to the other side, and that is why we keep talking about it. That is why this channel exists. Because silence does not save anyone, and if hearing this story makes even one person recognize the warning signs in their own life or in the life of someone they love, then this was worth every second. If this story hit home for you, if it made you think, made you feel something, or reminded you of someone you know, do me a favor. Share this video. You never know who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Crime and Humanity so you do not miss the next one, and drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. Tell me how this story made you feel. Because this conversation, the one about domestic violence, about stalking, about what happens when people refuse to let go, this conversation needs to keep going. And it starts with us. Remember, every crime is just another aspect of humanity. See you in the next one.